When it comes to the world of spray paint, the options can seem limitless. But when you get to the cream of the crop, you know, the professional artist quality spray paints, the options become a little bit farther and few between. Now, artists especially, well, we require something with a little bit more kick. Plutonium. Now, Plutonium claims that they are the most superior spray paint on the market, specifically in 3 categories. 1, fastest drying time. 2, having multiple spraying angles. And 3, having the best covering and brightest white. So that's what we're going to be taking a closer look at today. Does Plutonium outperform its competitors in all 3 of these categories, and see if we can prove it. Alright, our first test today, drying time. Now, as we stated earlier, Plutonium claims that it is the fastest drying spray paint available. So we're going to test how fast it dries compared to 2 of its competitors, the Belton as well as the Montana Gold. I'm going to apply an even amount of paint to boards, and then as soon as I do, I'm going to hit my stopwatch and see how long it takes until it's dry completely, testing it every few minutes for doneness. So let's get started. Safety first. I feel like a surgeon. Do I look like a surgeon? Maybe I don't need to yell. Alright, starting with Belton, here we go. Alright, we're coming up just past our first minute. I can tell just from the sheen that we're not dry quite yet, so we're going to give it a few more minutes and then test for doneness. Dry up top, still wet on the bottom, and it's still a little sticky, so it needs to cook a little bit longer. We'll keep going. Alright, we're coming just about on 6 minutes here, and I think that by any definition we are dry. Alright, on to test 2, Montana Gold. Alright, we're coming just past a minute here, and we are still, well, wet, so not done yet. Alright, we're just past 2.5 minutes. It's still very tacky. You can see just from the sheen that we're still not there yet. We'll keep trucking along. This is like the pot calling the kettle black. Who am I to judge what's tacky? Alright, we'll call it here. 7 minutes and 43 seconds. I think that is dry. Alright, our moment of truth. Onto the Plutonium. Alright, we're just past our first minute, and already I can see that the sheen is pretty much off of it, but I would say dry to the touch, but still a little bit sticky, so we're not quite there yet. Alright, we're at about 1 minute and 45 seconds. We actually barely had enough time to set up for our next take. That's dry. There's no stickiness. That was dry in 1 minute 45. That is impressive. Alright, this next test is based on spray angles. Now, Plutonium claims it has the most spray angles of any spray paint available. And what we're going to do is we're going to take each brand, and I'm going to do kind of a horseshoe or U shape with each brand and see which of the brands, if any, can maintain a consistent line or as close to a consistent line while going from completely upside down to right side up to upside down. So let's give that a try. Starting with the Belton. So we had a little bit of a cutoff there, but other than that, I would say pretty consistent. A little bit of fading, but just that one area I think is where it's most obvious. Montana Gold, here we go. I think the results kind of speak for themselves. All right, our final test on angles, Plutonium. Well, that is impressive. Unlike the other brands, it came on particularly strong and then maintained consistency throughout. Now, why does the Plutonium do this and the other brands cannot? Unlike other cans of spray paint, the Plutonium has a special valve that allows it to spray completely upside down, right side up, and, well, almost any angle. Alright, now we're on to our coverage test. What I've done is taken 3 boards, and each board has been coated with the corresponding white spray paint already. I have then made a 4x6 black rectangle in the middle of each board. I'm going to see how many coats it takes of each brand until this black rectangle disappears. And we will start with the Belton. Coat 1. This is coat number 2. Number 3. All right, coat number 4. I'm gonna apply one more coat and then I'm gonna stand back, and maybe at 6 or 10 feet, that'll be the real test where the indentation shouldn't make a difference. I wanna see if I can tell if there was ever any black there or not. Here goes number 5. I can still make out just a hint of the black. So I'm gonna apply one last coat again and see if this one does it. All right, we've just applied our 6th coat and I think I can call it. This one is completely covered after 6 applications of the paint. All right, we're on to Montana Gold. Same thing, we're gonna do a couple of coats, see how many it takes until this black rectangle disappears. I feel like a magician. I think it's fair to say that there's still a rectangle there. We're gonna do our 3rd coat. Number 4. All right, 6. So at this distance, I'm mostly covered. I'm still seeing a little bit of the black. I'm gonna do one more coat and see if that will satisfy the critics. All right, I think it's soup. 7 coats at this distance. That rectangle is no more. Now, plutonium. All right, we're gonna apply our first coat of the plutonium. And 3. Coat 4, here we go. At our 4th coat, we're still not quite there. I want to do one more, back it up. We might need 2 more, we'll see. Okay, coat number 5. I'm definitely still seeing a hint of that rectangle, so I'm going to do one more application and see if we can tie it at 6. Okay, at 6 applications, that rectangle is gone. So we're at 6 applications, which pretty much ties it with the Belton. Or does it? So here are our 3 test subjects of the coverage experiment. We have our Montana Gold, which came in at 7 coats, and we have our Plutonium and Belton at 6 coats. And I mentioned that they were tied, but were they really? Now, why did I mention this? If you look at these 3 samples, you will notice one of them is extremely brighter than the other 2. And if you answered Plutonium, good news, you don't need glasses. We tested white because any other color, and when it comes to opacity, would do just fine, in fact fairly even. The reason that white is unique is because any pigment that you add to it will make it less brilliant of a white, as you can see with the Montana Gold and the Belton, which is why their whites are not as bright as the plutonium. So if this does not have any pigmentation in it for opacity, what makes the plutonium different? Well, the answer is active resins. The active resins are what allow the plutonium to have great coverage similar to the other brands, but a clearly and visibly brighter white than any other brand available. And well, that's there right in front of you. Well, there you have it in black and white, I guess. When it comes to the claims that plutonium's made, that it is the fastest drying, has the most spraying angles, and, well, the best covering and brightest white, I think that we have proven that Plutonium is clearly the superior brand. I hope you enjoyed this series of Prove It, and we'll see you again next time. Thanks.
All right, Mike, you heading out?
Yeah, guys, that's a wrap.
All right, man. Well, we'll see you later.